Cool. So, hi everyone. I'm super excited to have you all here today and very excited to welcome you to our Black Friday and Cyber Monday Masterclass focused on how to drive through retention throughout the holiday shopping period. So, who you'll be hearing from today, my name is Emma and I'm an Enterprise Client Success Manager here at Yotpo, and I'll be joined by Brian. Brian, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, really excited to be here, and thanks to Yapo for having Shopify and myself come and speak to all of the awesome Shopify brands out there about Black Friday, Cyber Monday. I know it's the busiest time of the season, so hopefully you'll get some good information out of today's webinar, and happy to be here, Emma. Yeah, like you said, my name is Brian Peters. I lead app partnerships within marketing, store design, customer support at Shopify, and so hopefully today will be a great session.
Awesome. So just to introduce kind of the companies that Brian and I are here representing. So Yotpo is an all-encompassing e-commerce marketing platform. We have several products that fall under our domain. Those products are reviews, visual UGC, loyalty, referrals, and SMS marketing. And we are joined by Shopify, which is an all-in-one commerce platform helping customers start, run, and grow a business. And Shopify basically operates worldwide, allowing customers to sell, ship, and process payments pretty much anywhere. So jumping into Black Friday, Cyber Monday, which is why we're all here today, I think a big question that everyone is asking is, given how crazy the world is right now, what can we expect for this holiday season in 2021? And in terms of what we're anticipating this shopping period being essentially a two-part trend in comparison to last year, where we are seeing both customers shopping both online and in stores. So in terms of what we're expecting from a sales perspective, we are expecting sales to rise about 2.7% in comparison to Black Friday, Cyber Monday last year. And another stat that I think is really important to hear is that mobile shopping has been on the rise since 2018, and we are anticipating about a 1.3x growth in mobile purchasing this shopping season.
Yeah, and Emma, I can actually share a couple stats from the Shopify side as well. From every year we do a live BFCM map. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's basically this really cool globe that shows all the orders processing around the world. And last year, Shopify merchants during the course of BFCM weekend did $5.1 billion in sales. The average cart price was $89, and we peaked at $102 million in sales. That was the peak sales per hour. So it was pretty incredible. And I think what we saw last year is that 50% more consumers were buying from Shopify merchants than the previous year over year. And so I think this year is going to be really exciting. You mentioned the 10 billion number, and I think the sky's the limit this year, and we're really excited to see what that looks like.
Awesome. Brian, thank you for sharing those stats on the Shopify side. That's super, super fascinating. And it's crazy to think that Shopify is just one of the e-commerce platforms out there, and just thinking about like how much revenue is going to be made during this holiday period, which kind of perfectly segues me into here is, what does this shopping period mean for your brand and for you as a marketer? So needless to say, Black Friday, Cyber Monday is a huge, huge revenue driving time. But if you want to be really strategic this holiday season, it's more so about building your marketing strategy as a whole and kind of setting that precedent for the year going forward. So ultimately, what you want to be doing strategically with your customers during this time is actually driving retention, making sure that throughout this shopping period, you have strategies in place to help increase your customer lifetime value at the end of the shopping period.
Yep.
So needless to say, even though Black Friday, Cyber Monday is essentially 2 days long, there's quite a bit of preparation that has to take place well in advance. And in addition to that, I think these points here kind of showcase some of the issues that and some of the areas that marketers should be focusing on during this time. Brian, would you want to speak to some of these?
Yeah, absolutely. And to preface sort of a lot of things we'll be talking about today, I have the pleasure of working in the marketing technology space, and so I do have a pretty decent view of the different strategies and tactics that work for merchants during this time, and I get to see sort of all of the various email and SMS and loyalty platforms and the stats that they're also sharing with Shopify. And then finally, I also help with a few brands on the side. So hopefully like my marketing skills will be up to date and useful for today. But I think like first and foremost, the top left box there, and something that merchants like really need to like internalize and then like put that into their strategy this year is the idea of privacy and advertising changes and all of the things that are happening in the industry. I think a lot of merchants probably watching this webinar are used to putting a lot of money into their advertising or putting a lot of money into advertising platforms, especially social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Google, etc. And I think what we're seeing is like there are impacts already of the privacy changes on advertising effectiveness. So I think like the big theme for this year in talking with merchants and talking with partners is setting yourself up for success for the long term using 2021 BFCM as like the baseline for every future marketing sort of like approach that you take. And that all starts with understanding the privacy changes and focusing on getting as many loyal customers, if you will, into your funnel, into your database, getting people to opt in, conversion. And we'll talk obviously, Emma, a lot about all of those tactics, but like thinking about privacy changes and the fact that you will need to have like a really strong first party data set in the future, BFCM is a perfect place to start with that.
Absolutely. Brian, couldn't agree with you more on the changes in privacy and kind of migration towards a cookieless world. And so what we want to talk about today is how you can essentially prepare your customer base so that you're able to capture this kind of first party and zero party data. And in addition to that, some of the things that we'll also talk about today is just how to kind of make sure your entire marketing funnel from checkout to load times to pop-ups are all kind of optimized for success here. So now that you're prepared, kind of high level, what we're going to talk about today, I want to walk us through kind of the top strategies for driving retention. And the way we're going to look at this is actions and steps you should be preparing before, during, and after Black Friday, Cyber Monday. So to dive in, I want to talk about the actions that you should start looking at before Black Friday, Cyber Monday. And the first point that we want to talk about is conversion optimization. So prior to this super busy period where you are going to have a ton of traffic coming to your site, you want to make sure that your experiences are optimized for efficiency. So Yotpo deals quite a bit with user-generated content. And what we've found is that having user-generated content, such as reviews on site, can actually increase conversions by up to 200%. Another way that you can optimize conversions during this time is that we've actually found that review requests that are sent via SMS as opposed to email actually see about a 66% increase in open rates. So these are things that you should start looking at as we're preparing for this period. Where are areas on site that you can kind of optimize the experience to be driving either open rates or conversion or whatever it is that you're looking for?
Yeah, and I think like to add on to that, Emma, like it's funny because I think a lot of like seasoned merchants out there are like, no, don't worry, we got our funnels and we got our conversion dialed, and we understand like if we get this amount of traffic, this amount of consumers or customers will convert to our email list or SMS list. But I think like the vast majority of merchants out there don't have a lot of these like best practices put in place before a busy holiday season. So like you should be able to answer the question, merchants, like what is my online conversion rate? What percentage of my traffic that comes onto my website from, let's say, social ads or email convert into the various like promotions or things I'm trying to get them to do, whether that's a sale, whether that's converting to your email list, whether that's subscribing via a phone number. Like you should have those metrics dialed in, and the conversion flows on your website whether it's pop-ups or banners or push notifications. All of that stuff should be dialed going into BFCM so that you can really keep a close eye on your conversion rates during the time of BFCM. And that way you can make little tweaks as you go along and really have an understanding of like, okay, we can double down on this Black Friday, Cyber Monday strategy because we know that it's going to convert at a 1% higher rate. And even 1% makes a huge difference.
Absolutely. Brian, I couldn't agree with you more. You want to make sure that you have a metric that you're essentially comparing yourself against and know kind of beforehand what areas of your shopping experience you need to be focusing on.
Yep.
So with that, before Black Friday, Cyber Monday, while you're looking at increasing your conversion areas, you might also want to look at other channels of engagement with your customers, such as SMS marketing. We've found that SMS has been extremely impactful for customers. A stat that I find personally to be very relevant is that 53% of shoppers have reported that their top incentive for signing up for SMS is actually early access to sales and new releases. And why that stands out to me is that consumers' incentive for opting into SMS is actually less so discount oriented, and it more so shows that customers who are subscribing to your SMS actually have a desire to have that kind of long-term value exchange with your brand. Not to mention,
Really,
Brian, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think that's interesting. Like I think about the most recent merchant that I signed up for via SMS, and it was like the call to action was get exclusive, and they had done a partnership. I think it was Huckberry and Coors, right? So it was like get exclusive products from Huckberry and Coors, but the only way you can do that is to sign up for SMS. So I think you bring up a great point here, Emma, is like not all of your marketing has to be sales driven. And I think like especially around BFCM when you have tight margins or like you're not known for being a sales driven company, like a lot of this stuff using SMS could be like really cool kind of creative partnerships with other brands or offers that don't necessarily have to be discounting your product.
Absolutely. And to that point, I think also, given that we're looking at the pre-Black Friday, Cyber Monday kind of funnel, it's like, how can we incentivize customers to engage with our brand prior to this sale period? And so to that point, these early access and kind of exclusive offers is going to help drive that conversion. And in terms of new channels, we find that customers are extremely motivated by this sense of urgency, and SMS kind of offers that exclusivity feel. You know, when you're getting a text from a brand, you're like, oh, my favorite brand is texting me, and they're letting me know about this like early drop or this exclusive sale. And so that's kind of how you can start to funnel customers into your SMS kind of subscriber flow.
Yeah. Well, it's funny too, right? Because like it used to be Black Friday, and then it was Cyber Monday, and then now it's like Black Friday, Cyber Monday, aka Friday through Monday. And now I feel like brands are like, oh wait, no, now it's just like the month of November. And I swear like Black Friday, Cyber Monday is just gonna be like this year-long thing. So I think you're 100% right. And like, if you can get clients, customers to engage now, you'll have a much easier time re-engaging them over the holiday season, because imagine your own inbox. You get a lot of emails during that time. So they're gonna have to wade through all the content. It is fun. There's a lot of like cool stuff happening during the time, but like think about like why, plan now for like why would someone interact with your brand versus another brand. And yeah, like sales are important, but so is like really valuable, like fun products and partnerships and like, yeah, and again, like new channels to explore.
Absolutely. Completely agree with you on that. So next, prior to Black Friday, Cyber Monday, another area of focus, if you don't have a loyalty program, definitely build one out. And if you do have a loyalty program, in the months leading up to Black Friday, Cyber Monday, it's time to really double down on it. So we work quite a bit with loyalty programs here at Yotpo, and we essentially view loyalty programs as the engine that drives retention throughout the holidays. So if you have a loyalty program in the months leading up to it, how can you encourage customers to earn points, maybe through non-transactional campaigns? That way, come Black Friday, Cyber Monday, you're able to send out an email to your customers reminding them to shop with your brand, perhaps because they have points to use, or perhaps even just because they can accumulate points, or maybe a new VIP tier status. Not to mention, there's a ton of data that you're going to be able to capture from customers who are joining your loyalty program, and we'll actually talk a bit more a little later on about how you can leverage that.
I'm actually surprised there's merchants that don't have loyalty programs today.
It
seems like table stakes in commerce now, especially with, again, like back to the privacy changes, like to have that loyal fall. And they always say too, like this is a known stat in commerce, like it's easier to sell to your existing customers than it is to acquire new ones, and easier and cheaper. And then also too, like if you look at, I would be willing to bet that if you look at if you were to take a merchant, all of their customers that have ever purchased from them, and I'm thinking of one merchant in particular, which I won't name names, but like one of the largest on Shopify, a lot of their customers, a small subset of their customers make up a massive chunk of revenue. So like loyalty programs are like incredible for building that like small set of customers that can make up like a very significant portion of your revenue.
Completely. And it's funny because I guess going back to what you were saying earlier, when I'm shopping at brands, the first thing I do is check to see if they have a loyalty program. And if they don't, I'm like,
right.
Oh, like so frustrating because I know I'm going to shop with you again. But going back to your point with the brands that I work with, what's so fascinating to see is whenever we launch a loyalty program, you're exactly right. We have this group of customers right off the bat that are the brand's biggest spenders, and they do just make up a huge portion of the brand's revenue. But over time, once you add in loyalty, it's so interesting to watch the funnel of customers who either came in through a referral or who hadn't made any purchases prior to the launch of the loyalty program, and watching them grow to actually become like a top loyalty customer or a top VIP customer. So it really does shape customers' kind of purchasing and spend behaviors.
Yep, absolutely.
Cool. So now that we spoke about steps that you should take before Black Friday, Cyber Monday, I want to talk about what you should be doing during Black Friday, Cyber Monday. And Brian, do you want to speak to what we mean when we say during Black Friday, Cyber Monday?
Yeah. So it's all the stuff that we sort of talked about previous to this should be fully ready. Too many times I see, and like to no fault of their own, I know merchants are busy. There's a lot going on leading up to this. But during Black Friday, Cyber Monday should almost be in cruise control, and then leveraging real time some of the trends that you're seeing, and maybe implementing things that or fun new things based. Like I guess another way to put that is like everything should be prepped going into BFCM to allow yourself space to, one, take care of your customers, and then two, like get creative in the moment based on things you're seeing real time, versus not preparing for BFCM and then the night before or the week of like scrambling to get a campaign out there when it's already too late or maybe half as effective as it could have been. So the stuff I think we're going to talk about now, right, Emma, is like
things that will be implemented during Black Friday, but things that you've prepped beforehand. Exactly. Cool. So this kind of capitalizes on what Brian was just saying, is that during Black Friday, Cyber Monday, you're going to want to increase your social media ad budget. It is no secret that customers are shopping from ads that they're finding on Facebook and Instagram. I can speak to it myself. I'm entirely guilty of this. I discover a ton of new brands from ads that come to me via Facebook and Instagram. And from the merchant perspective, or even from the shopper perspective, social media has kind of changed the way our shopping behaviors are, in that shopping is such a serendipitous moment. And as a merchant, you want to make sure that the ads that you're creating are going to actually kind of cut through the noise and capture the attention of your customer base. So ways that you can do that, make sure you have super simple and straightforward call to actions, click to purchase. Also, if you're going to have any coupons in your ads, make sure those are super like click to copy, and just making sure that the content that you're putting out there is super engaging and that you're actually leveraging this time to acquire customers so that they're able to see these ads and then ultimately end up converting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, too, and I'll add there, Emma, that's great. Play a little devil's advocate for merchants out there thinking like, I don't know if I want to do that. So I think one thing too is like the reason you might need to increase your social media advertising budget is that ads are just more expensive around the holidays. Cost per clicks are higher, like cost per impressions are higher. There's just more dollars flowing through social platforms, and so like the same budget that you're using now is not going to get the same results as you're seeing now over the holidays, and I think that's just something to be prepared for. So actually, like one tip that I do give to merchants is to actually increase your budget starting now, and like utilize this time, the time leading up to the holidays, knowing that people are probably starting to shop, thinking about presents, thinking about the holidays. It's a great time to increase your budget now, and then if it gets to the point where you're seeing maybe not so efficient ROI on your ads, like you could, instead of increasing your social media budget, pivot that money to a different channel, such as influencer marketing or other things I think we'll talk about in a second. But just be aware that like it will be more expensive, and if you are getting good ROI, that's great, then double down. But you can increase starting now, and then if you see like really inefficient ad spend, you could quickly pivot that to maybe some other channels.
Absolutely. And I think that goes back to what we were saying earlier, in that everything that you're doing during Black Friday, you want to start prepping beforehand. And so exactly what you were just saying, Brian, making sure that you know where your ad budget is going to be effective during this time. So next, we want to make sure that during Black Friday, you are responding to real-time customer behaviors. So for example, if a customer were to take a revenue lost action or even a revenue driving action, you want to make sure that you are responding accordingly. So let's say a customer abandons their cart. You want to make sure that you are targeting them either via email or via SMS, kind of incentivizing them to come back and make a purchase. On the other end of that, if a customer actually does make a purchase, you want to make sure that you have your triggers in place to follow up for a review request. You want to make sure that you have maybe a flow where you're asking customers specific questions about their order, and that you're able to capitalize on that data that you're getting from the customer. So really just making sure that you have all the infrastructure in place to respond to any customer sentiment, even whether it's a negative review and you want to offer some sort of compensation, or a positive experience that a customer had that potentially turns into a review that you can then showcase on site. So making sure that you have all of these funnels in place beforehand.
Yeah, and Emma, are we, is this in a future slide? But just talking a little bit about customer support as well, because I think that's what you're getting at here is like, I think that the customer experience on your website is brands usually think about conversion rates and cart abandonments. I like to think that like, this is silly, every single like, you measure your website success in terms of like raw metrics like visitors and conversion rates and number of email abandonments sent and conversion rate on email abandonment. And I think like in aggregate, that's great. But I think like what you have to remember is every single one of those like metrics is like a real person behind it. And a lot of times, like you don't necessarily know who those people are and whether they have like the opportunity to like talk about your brand, share your products. And so all of like that on-site experience goes into like the long-term, I think, health of your brand, especially within your like top influencers as well. So I think like to think about the customer service aspect of this and making sure that you have ways for people to get in touch with your brand over the holidays, making sure like perhaps you're even staffed correctly by hiring some folks ahead of the BFCM holidays and just being ready to like handle those increased support requests. It goes a long way. And I had like a really great experience with the brand the other day, and I'm now recommending them to all my neighbors. You know what I mean? And so I think like all that stuff like matters, and I think it gets forgotten about in the metrics focused BFCM sort of just whirlwind.
For sure. I think any like help desk kind of company or any customer service application that you're using, you as a merchant, you definitely want to make sure that those are set up and ready come the holidays. Something that I do quite a bit in my day-to-day is making sure that those providers are integrated with our loyalty, our reviews, our SMS programs. That way you are able to actually respond in real time. So if a customer has an issue with shipping or an issue with their order, you have agents who are able to respond kind of on the dot or on the fly. So making sure that all of those actions are taking place during this super busy time.
Absolutely.
So next, during Black Friday, Cyber Monday, you also want to make sure that you're capitalizing on shifting in-store and kind of shopping experiences in general. So as we mentioned, we anticipate this Black Friday, Cyber Monday, customers are shopping both in-store and online. So you want to make sure that you're kind of merging the synergies between those experiences. So for example, to promote a new product drop that you have on your website, maybe you could host an in-person event to help generate excitement. With that, customers right now have varying levels of comfort in terms of their interactions at checkout. Do you want to have contactless payments? Do you want to have payment options where there is a human interaction to help guide a shopper? And with that, you want to make sure that you're taking advantage of your POS system. So for example, for merchants using the Shopify POS, we'll always integrate that with our loyalty and SMS programs, as it's a great touch point once you have a customer in person to essentially ask them if they want to join your loyalty program and also to capture them as an SMS subscriber. On that note, I'll also talk about just some shifting shopping behaviors and kind of checkout experiences in general, which I think are some trends that I know I'm seeing with the merchants that I work with on my day-to-day, which is an increase in these buy now, pay later kind of flexible payment options, and then also a huge increase in subscriptions. So the ability for customers to receive your product on like a monthly cadence, for example.
Yeah. Yeah, I think those are great, Emma. And I think I'll take a sec just to like talk about Shopify's checkout experience and like how focused we are on checkout. And I know that merchants are on checkout. Checkout is like where the money happens and it's where everything lives and breathes. And so I think like having like just the ideal checkout flow using, you know, obviously if you're a Shopify merchant using Shopify checkout or even like Shop Pay and that checkout flow, you know, we've built now really exciting subscription features and post-purchase upsell features into the checkout. So again, it all goes back to like what you were saying before, right? Repeating customers, repeat buyers, like reoccurring revenue. You know, we used to only talk about recurring revenue when it came to like SaaS products, but now merchants are starting to think about it as well. And what we're seeing this year is just like a massive demand for both those, the buy now, pay later subscriptions and then post-purchase upsells. So if you're wondering what the largest merchants on Shopify are doing, it really is like those 4 bullet points. And I would only add just post-purchase to that bullet point as well to say like, that's kind of what we're seeing in the checkout world. And Shopify has been really doubling down on our product roadmap in terms of checkout to support those use cases.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's something I can speak to just from like my day-to-day with merchants, just the way the checkout kind of experience is progressing. And as a merchant, something I encourage you to do is if you haven't in a while, go through your checkout flow, make sure it's optimized for conversion, because you'd be surprised. Sometimes I'll find there's like so many pop-ups that it actually detracts from the customer checking out. And so just going through that experience yourself and understanding what actions does a customer have to take to actually complete this flow?
Yeah, and time yourself too, right? Like how long does it take for you to complete your checkout? Because if you think about other platforms, I won't name names, like less than 10 seconds to like from start to finish. So like, are you able to provide that experience to your merchants too? Yeah, do you have distracting things? There's a time and place for pop-ups and conversions, and that's not checkout. You know what I mean? So That's a great point.
Something I'm super, super attuned to now.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Awesome. So now that we covered kind of before and during Black Friday, Cyber Monday, I want to talk about after Black Friday, Cyber Monday, because just because the shopping period is over does not mean that as a marketer, you're done with your work. There's quite a bit more that you'll want to kind of make use of after this period. So first and foremost, you want to make use of these customers that you captured during the shopping period. And you want to do that across all your marketing channels. So on the loyalty side, perhaps you saw an influx of new customers joining the loyalty program. Perhaps with customers who were already in the loyalty program, they rose to a new VIP tier. You want to make sure that you're keeping those customers engaged and that you're continuing to learn more and kind of extract more and more data points about each of these users. So in this time, it's super critical to incentivize for non-transactional engagements with your website. So encouraging a customer to follow you on social media, maybe to complete a survey about your brand where you can learn more about the customer and kind of capture more first party and zero party data, just kind of keeping engagement flowing while you know it's less likely to actually get a customer to maybe convert and make a purchase during that time, but still capturing data from these users and generating their excitement to make a future purchase. On the UGC side, you've hopefully and ideally collected a ton of user-generated content, whether it be reviews or visual UGC during this time period. So for a customer who left a review, you want to make sure that you're showcasing those reviews on site. So maybe updating your reviews widget and make sure that that experience is optimal. Similarly, I think across the board, we're seeing an increase in a trend that we're calling creator-led commerce, where consumers these days kind of see themselves as their influencers and brand ambassadors to the brands that they really follow and are loyalty to. So something I'm encouraging with my clients is to create like specific holiday hashtags where that they're encouraging their customers to use, and then the brands can create like a dedicated gallery where they're showcasing their customers as their actual influencers and kind of brand ambassadors. So ultimately making sure that you're leveraging these different channels that you have post the shopping period.
I like to think that I'm a brand ambassador for a lot of brands, even though I don't get paid for it or free products. It's just what I like to do, and I agree, Emma. I think that like the little interactions with these customers to make them feel like they're a part of your brand, and like again, like all the stuff we've been talking about, text messaging, loyalty programs, giving them like the best possible experience will make them feel as if they're a brand ambassador, and you really don't have to give them much in return other than just like some attention and some like love, and making them feel like they've like really experienced something as part of like interactions with your brand. I love the hashtags too. I think setting up a hashtag for your brand is a fantastic way to do so. And I know tools like Yappa, right? Like you can curate what is shown in those hashtags on your website. So it's not like you're going to get all the unfiltered content. It's going to be like your top influencers and the most beautiful pictures. And so like you can do a lot of like the curation, which I love. I love when brands have like Instagram feeds on their website. I mean, think about like your most recent experience on like Wayfair or even like some of these big marketplaces, right? You want to see the product in a real person's home. Well, at least I do. I want to see it like being used, no matter if it's like a beauty product or a couch or a bicycle. Like a lot of that UGC is super important because it like really gives weight to the reviews on your website.
Absolutely, it drives inspiration, and I mean, it's a win-win for the brand if you think about it, because they have a customer who purchases their product and they don't need to pay. It's less expensive than paying for an influencer. Leverage your customers to become your influencers and essentially inspire future purchases, because Brian, taking you as the example of a consumer, you'll see how a customer styles their Wayfair couch in their home, and that could potentially drive your purchase. So just kind of the funnel kind of goes full circle there.
Yep.
Cool. So next, after Black Friday, Cyber Monday, you want to make sure you're continuing the conversation with SMS marketing. So like we were saying earlier, SMS marketing allows your consumer to feel a little bit more connected with your brand and kind of has that exclusivity element. And so through either like your loyalty program or even just through SMS marketing in general, you're able to create conversational flows. And in those flows, you can actually extract key data points from your customer. So for example, if you're a beauty brand, you can ask your customer, what is your skin type? What is your complexion? Was this product rough on your skin? And then you can segment your customers and then target them in a more personalized way in your marketing efforts going forward. And I think going back to what Brian was speaking to a little bit earlier with the changes in a kind of a cookieless world and the changes in privacy in general, these SMS flows will allow you to capture the data from your customers that it's not as easy to get anymore as it used to be.
Yep. And I just want to give a quick shout out to something we've been working on the product side at Shopify. So any merchant who works in the SMS space or leverages SMS marketing knows that it's like a very regulated industry or marketing channel, and you have to be super careful about like consent. It's not the same as email consent. I think a lot of people know that. Obviously, SMS Bump does a really good job of all of that and making sure merchants are compliant. One thing that Shopify just launched as well that I think would be really beneficial for Shopify merchants watching this is we just launched a like checkbox at checkout that you can enable as a merchant to collect SMS consent that is fully approved, regulated by the carriers, like all of like Verizon, AT&T, and then we worked with obviously SMS Bump to make sure that we're all compliant. And so you can go into your admin settings, and if you've edited your checkout liquid before to have SMS consent, you can now remove that and just enable this feature. So I think there's like SMS is really becoming like a first-class citizen in terms of marketing. I think like it has been for a while, but now on Shopify's product roadmap as well. So go check it out. It's in the admin. I think you can enable it today. Just enable the checkbox, and it works perfectly with SMS Bump. Just saying.
It does. I've actually been on like a handful of calls where we've been working through that. So yeah, couldn't agree more. It is the most seamless way to get your customers to opt in to SMS marketing, and then from there, I spoke to kind of the benefits and the data that you're able to capture from that. And so just kind of streamlining that subscription flow or that subscribing the flow to capture subscribers is kind of going to be the name of the game here.
For sure. Yeah. And obviously you'll be collecting SMS consent at other parts of the website checkout, pop-ups and like push notifications and banner ads. That's fine. We actually found some really, I don't think I can share specific percentages, but like a very high number of people are willing to give both SMS and email consent, which is great for marketers and brands. And then a lot of people are actually just willing to give SMS consent over email consent as well. So I think what we're seeing is like at least providing the option for email marketing and or SMS marketing is a really great way to kind of, if a person doesn't want to give their email, they'll give the phone number. If they don't want to give their phone, they'll give their email, or they'll give both. And so you at least get that data.
Absolutely. And I think that actually transitions perfectly here, which is making sure that after Black Friday, Cyber Monday, you're creating channel-specific content so that you're able to target your customers in their preferred channel of communication. So maybe I'm a customer and I'm on my email all the time and that works best for me. Or maybe I'm a consumer that prefers SMS. And so making sure that you're still able to target customers in their preferred channel of communication. And in terms of customizing your communication for each of those channels, just some general trends that we found kind of working in this space. We found that with SMS, more playful copy usually works best. Another stat I like is that in abandoned cart flows, we actually see a slightly larger increase in conversion for SMS, for messages that are MMS as opposed to SMS. So in the abandoned cart flow, customers respond to images. Whereas in email, for example, we find that customers respond to visuals that are more engaging and very large kind of CTAs. And then on-site, just that urgency messaging. So limited time only, running out of stock. So just making sure that wherever your customers are, the content that you're showcasing there is very curated for that specific channel.
That's a pretty cool stat. So SMS is more effective with an image?
For abandoned cart flows.
For abandoned cart flows. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think for abandoned cart flows, customers like to see the products that they left. It kind of allows for that like almost FOMO feeling where they feel like, oh my God, I almost had this and then I didn't, so I should come back. So it's funny that like what I always recommend there is A/B testing. You're not sure what experience your customer likes at each of these checkpoints. Most providers, whether you're using an ESP integration or an SMS provider, allow for A/B testing so you can actually see what your customers prefer.
Yeah, I'd imagine too, like with texts, I would challenge merchants on this call or on this webinar to like get rid of the formal messaging framework and try to pretend like you're texting a friend. Because I would imagine if I'm a consumer and I get a fairly decent amount of text from brands, like it's a really great channel to just like showcase your brand's personality. It's like kind of you think about your Twitter strategy. It's everyone has a Twitter strategy now. I think it's like very much applies to the SMS world of like, don't try to be too formal. Text as if it's your friend. And then I love that stat about images on abandoned cart. That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. It's like your brand should have a voice when you're interacting over SMS. You want the consumer to feel like they're speaking with a person as opposed to just like a more formal kind of email conversation. It wouldn't make sense there.
Right. Like you don't want it to be like an ad every time. Like I think that's where one of my things that I think about with SMS marketing, right, is like it still hasn't hit full mainstream yet. So it's not like we've reached a point where you're getting as many text messages as you are emails. But I'd imagine in the next 5-10 years, we'll be at a point where SMS marketing is like on the same playing field as emails in terms of volume. And so like if all you're doing is sending out marketing messages and your competitors or other brands in your space are like providing that human feel and like making it more of like channel specific and it feels like the SMS way you should be communicating, like I think those are the ones that are going to win, because it's the same with email, right? It's like email for a long time, email marketing was looked at as spam. And like for sure in the marketing space, it was looked at as spam. And then over the years, we like had spam filters. We got really good at like sending good marketing messages. I think like right now we're actually in the beginning of the SMS marketing time period. And I think we're going to follow that same trend as email did. We're going to hit like a lot of marketers are going to start using it. It's going to be kind of spammy. We'll probably have filters. And then like the brands who are doing it well will like be above the rest in terms of like actual SMS effectiveness.
I couldn't agree with you more. To that point, like conversational flows, leverage them. Something I think gets super underutilized by merchants, but has such a value add when you do it right. And I think to your point, as more brands will leverage SMS for promos and discounts, and they'll start to be seen for consumers as more of a marketing channel, when you add in the more conversational element, it allows for that personalization.
Yeah, absolutely.
So those were our strategies to have in place for Black Friday, Cyber Monday. I want to recap on everything that we covered today because I know that it was quite a lot. So in terms of the strategies we're looking at before Black Friday, Cyber Monday, you want to focus on conversion optimization, trying new channels like SMS marketing, and building out your loyalty program or capitalizing on it if you already have one. During Black Friday, Cyber Monday, you want to look at where to spend your ad dollars, whether it be on your social ad budget and other ways that you can get creative on social media. During Black Friday, Cyber Monday, you want to make sure you're responding to real-time behavior and capitalize on shifting in-store and checkout experiences and trends. Lastly, after Black Friday, Cyber Monday, you want to make sure that you're benefiting from all the new customers that you acquired, making sure that you're leveraging your loyalty program to engage post-holiday, making sure that you're leveraging SMS marketing to connect personally with your customers, and also to make sure that you're not abandoning your other channels and that you're creating content that is very curated to each of your marketing channels so that they kind of serve your consumers with what they're looking for. So that's everything. Thank you guys for joining us. If you have any questions that we didn't answer, please send your questions here, and Brian and myself will be happy to answer them. Thank you, everyone.
Awesome. Thanks, Emma. And just really quickly wanted to say, on behalf of Shopify, we are cheering you on from behind the scenes, like quite literally cheering you on. The entire Shopify organization is. So we know this is the Super Bowl of commerce. So we want to say good luck.